Now, there's a media reporter named Brian Stelter. Well, everybody on here is well aware. Brian Stelter, he worked for CNN. CNN fired him. CNN brought him back. And for many on the right, Brian Stelter is representative of an extraordinary level of bias. Now, many reporters in the dominant media at places like CNN are biased. But for people like me and Drew, it's particularly galling that the media reporter, who's supposed to be covering the media objectively, when that person is biased, it's an extra layer of bias that's just extraordinary. And while many media reporters are biased for the left, this person is particularly hideous. Here he is. And Drew has highlighted this. We've borrowed from Drew's work here. Here he is, 12B. This is Brian Stelter's headline over his piece. He's very upset at the notion that someone would be canceled off a program or suspended for what they said, right? Trump's anti-media blitz that led to Kimmel's suspension is straight from a European strongman's playbook. So here's Brian Stelter on the current question of a government person threatening. Here's Brian Stelter several years ago when Lou Dobbs was fired for what he said, 12C.
But let's begin by going behind the scenes of Fox's surprise ouster of Lou Dobbs. It's not cancel culture here. It is consequence culture. What are the consequences for riling up people with reckless lies about a democracy that most Americans cherish? Well, lately there have not been many consequences, but maybe that's changing. Maybe.
Drew, explain the place that Brian Stelter holds amongst conservatives who see liberal media bias.
Yeah, so I think Stelter sometimes is almost a cartoon of himself, right? I think he is very opinionated, dramatically opinionated, but he does this thing that I think I try to point out a lot on X and on other places on your program, Mark, that is, I think, a way too apparent phenomena within the media, where Stelter seems to wake up every morning and it is as if the entirety of human existence has not happened. And he begins afresh. And he thinks about his political priorities. He thinks about the things that matter to him in that moment. And all of a sudden, he dials it up to 12 and says, this is it. Be alarmed. This is right. Don't be alarmed. And without fail, right? I spend a lot of time looking at hypocrisy and people kind of speaking out of both sides of their mouth, whether or not it's about their particular political team or issue or person. And Stelter is the spitting image of what I look for when I put together these hypocrisy points, because on every single issue, he manages to just nail it almost perfectly, almost flawlessly, right? And so you mentioned the consequence culture, which I think is a really excellent clip. He had another quote during COVID and the suppression of media online during COVID that he thought was just the grandest thing in the world. If you're reducing a liar's reach, you're not undermining free speech. You're simply doing what needs to be done. And it's always this way. There are no principles. It is beyond principled. I almost hope he's in on the joke.
Yeah. Michael, do people, well, forget people. Do you understand why the right feels so strongly about Brian Stelter's bias?
Yep. Yeah, I do, because I've felt it myself over the last year and a half. Probably, the last year and a half, I would say, since 2023 was when I started to see for myself. And I think it probably had to do with learning the hard way from my own experiences, from what happens when you speak out. CNN.
Well, I'll just put a sharper point on this. Michael became a critic of a Democratic administration, still a Democrat, still a loyal Democrat, but was seen as a threat to the health and political health of Democrats. And so Brian Stelter and his network turned against Michael because he was no longer on the home team. Kind of incredible.
Yeah. It was the first time I experienced anything like it. And then, I worked at MSNBC. I was a producer. I get it, but it is when I see people like a business reporter like a Stephanie Rule get the exclusive interview with Kamala Harris the day she rolls out her economic speech. And not one time does she ask her anything about she's going to pay for this thing or
Yeah.
anything. It's just it was like, how can you call yourself a journalist and go on Today Show and talk about economics when you only care about economics when the economy is doing bad under a Republican and good under a Democrat? I've seen things like that, but Brian doesn't cover that stuff. He didn't cover much of Joe Biden's absence, just absence from the media, from giving press conference, from giving press avails, from giving press conferences. I don't remember him doing a big thing about Kamala Harris taking 8 weeks to do an interview that she didn't even do alone.
Those are two great examples. He would occasionally mention them, but had it been a Republican, it would have been a daily drumbeat.
No, it's all Trump stuff with Brian, and that's what makes me sad, because it's so obvious that he's missing so much that he could be covering, but he chooses not. He didn't cover when Joe Malone a couple weeks ago. Did you see that thing with Joe Malone that came out and said how CNN is just has all these problems with liberals at their network? He didn't say a thing about a chairman of his own company.
Amazing.
Right. This episode brought to you by Cozy Earth. Cozy Earth makes incredible sheets, bedding, shirts, and the pants, which you hear me talk about all the time. And we'd like you to be able to experience the comfort and joy of Cozy Earth products. The bedding comes with a 100-day money-back guarantee, 10-year warranty, but you won't need those. You'll want to keep it. Go to CozyEarth.com right now. Use the promo code TWOWAY. Save 40% off. 40% off the entire site. Couldn't be more comfortable. And as you heard me say before, you can wear the pants anywhere. I have another dinner tonight out. I wouldn't say it's super fancy, but it's a little fancy, and I'll be wearing the pants. And people just either not notice them or notice them and say how nice they look. Cozy Earth products are viscose, made from bamboo. They're very breathable, very comfortable, but again, they look great, very soft. Go to CozyEarth.com right now. Use the code TWOWAY, 40% off the best pants, shirts, everything. And do a post-purchase survey. Tell them you heard about Cozy Earth right here. That'll help us out. So please do that. Built for real life, made to keep up with yours, Cozy Earth. Thank you for your attention to that matter.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the Two-Way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.